Yo, what's going on everybody? So today I want to have a discussion with you guys about not only Sarada Uchiha, but as well as Kakashi Hokage, the former 6th Hokage, and the man who was famously known for using the Sharingan to its maximum potential to copy over 1,000 ninjutsu. And I want to talk to you guys about why I personally believe that Sarada needs to train with Kakashi. And I know that's something that some people would say is a pretty bad idea, because there are a lot of people who feel like Sarada is best suited to train with Naruto. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, for a really long time I fell in that camp, but recently I've been doing some thinking and I really feel as if Naruto is not the right person to train Sarada. And I know that's gonna be blasphemous, because anytime you say anything negative or bad about Naruto Uzumaki, people absolutely lose it. And I'm not slighting Naruto as a character, but I think that when you look at Sarada Uchiha's, most importantly, when you look at her needs, I think Kakashi's best suited. Now, I know some people say, well, Sasuke could probably be a better teacher, and in the Sasuke novel and in the Naruto novel, one of the two, I believe it's the Naruto novel now that I'm thinking about it, you actually get a moment where you see Sasuke training with Sarada. And what's really interesting about that is, like, at the end of the Momoshiki arc in the Boruto anime, you had this one scene where Sarada looks at Sasuke and he says, "Can you look over my fireball jutsu?" And that was something that was referenced in the new Naruto Shinden novels, where you see Sasuke train Sarada how to use the great fireball jutsu that the Uchiha clan is known for. And in the Sasuke novel, you do have a moment where Sasuke is training Sarada how to effectively use her Sharingan into a way that she can actually see chakra around objects. And Sasuke did this by first disabling all the chakra bombs that were on the train they were on, and Sasuke used it as a teaching moment in order to push Sarada. And while all that's cool, and I think Sasuke training Sarada will be a really good thing to see, I think that when it comes to her needs on using the Sharingan, I think it's best if it comes from somebody like Kakashi. Now, why is that? Clearly Sasuke is more skilled with the Sharingan, and Sasuke is an Uchiha, so he knows best. That's all true, but the reason why it needs to be Kakashi is Kakashi has something in common with Sarada. Kakashi has a body that gets fatigued very easily if he uses the Sharingan. And obviously this is before the war arc, where the Naruto series completely amped up Kakashi and completely contradicted what we got just a few volumes before the war, where Kakashi, when he uses the Mangekyo Sharingan, was about to fall over after using it for a few minutes. And whereas in the war arc, the guy was spamming Sharingan and then Mangekyo Sharingan and S rank and A rank jutsu back to back, was not feeling fatigue. And then when he finally felt it, Naruto gave him the chakra and he just continued to spam on. I'm not talking about war arc Kakashi. So when you look at Sarada, and I've talked about this on a few other occasions, when you look at her, she has something in common with Izumi Uchiha, which is because she's only half Uchiha, her body, when she uses the Sharingan, it drains a lot of stamina from her. And even though we've seen her use Sharingan and do some crazy stuff since the Chunin exams, in particular in the current arc that's going on in the anime with the whole thing about bringing Mitsuki back to the Hidden Leaf Village, even then when she used Sharingan, it's been more as a last ditch effort. And in particular when she used it, and she used it to fight the chick from the Hidden Rock Village that was taking over her body and Boruto's body, the one that was obsessed with dolls. When you look at that, she very briefly used it and then she deactivated the Sharingan, and that's when she used that lightning style chakra for it. And that's just another sign that yes, Sarada, she is using Sharingan, she's using it for a little bit longer, but there's still a fatigue factor that comes there. And so what I think Kakashi could teach her is how to maximize her usage of Sharingan in battle before the fatigue starts to set in. And that's something that Sasuke does not have a full understanding of, because since he is a full-blooded Uchiha, and because it is stated in the manga that if you are not full-blooded Uchiha, that if you don't have an Uchiha body, that the Sharingan takes an enormous strain on. And because we know from the extended lore that this applies to half Uchiha as well, as far as not being able to maximize the Sharingan, the show has gone so far as to drill that in our head with Sarada. I think that Kakashi is the perfect one to show her how to use it. And I think that what would be really cool is if we actually saw Kakashi teaching her how to continue to copy ninjutsu, because we saw her use it when she copied the ninjutsu all the way back in the Hidden Miss Field Trip arc. I believe she was fighting Raiga's daughter, the guy who showed up in the Naruto filler arc from way back in part 1 of Naruto. And since then, we saw her copy Boruto's Shadow Clone Jutsu, but we hadn't really seen her copy much else. And I think that's a bit of a letdown. I think that's a huge letdown, because I feel like the Chunin exams was a perfect example for her to see a bunch of other ninja fighting and copy those jutsu, copy those movements, and then retain them into her Sharingan. I think that that could be something that pushes Sarada further down the path of becoming Hokage, because she would have access to a plethora of jutsu, especially jutsu that are not Kekkei Genkai based. And I feel like when you add in her chakra control, that Sarada could be an absolute monster. Imagine Sarada using some high level A rank ninjutsu and combining it with taijutsu speed, like when she copies, say, Metal Lee's high speed movements, similar to how Sasuke was able to mimic Rock Lee's movements. Imagine she could combine stuff like that. And we know that it's possible because that's what Kakashi taught Sasuke. He taught him how to use Rock Lee's high-speed movements so he could properly use the Chidori. And I feel like that would be something that is really, really key to Sarada's development, and most importantly, when it comes to Kakashi, because he was the former Hokage, I feel like having Sarada learn under him would also be an opportunity for Sarada to learn what it means to be Hokage. She has an idea of what it means to be Hokage, but she also has a, for lack of better words, she puts being Hokage on a pedestal. She doesn't truly understand the challenges that face a Hokage, and I feel like Kakashi could groom her. I feel like Kakashi, most importantly, could mentally push Sarada in a way that Sasuke would not be able to do, because at the end of the day, Sarada has a level of admiration for her father, and she seeks to please her father. There's something there. Now, while Sarada in one of the light novels did call Sasuke annoying, it's very clear that Sarada has a very deep love for her father, and in a way she's also put her father on that same pedestal as viewing him as almost a perfect person, similar to the way that she views the Hokage. And I feel like Kakashi could be that reality check. I really feel like Kakashi could be that reality check, and the reason why that would be so important is that when it comes to training Sarada to use ninjutsu, I feel like because Kakashi knows how to look at each of his individual students and find the one thumb screw that they have. For those who don't know what a thumb screw is that one sensitive area that completely undoes somebody. Because Kakashi's teaching style is to find that thumb screw and then build them up from it, I definitely feel like Kakashi could teach Sarada wonders. Like in particular, like when you look at the Bell test, you saw Kakashi using this all the way back in the first volume of Naruto. Like he immediately identified the weaknesses and he poked at Team 7 with it, and the whole purpose of his training. And when it comes to the training of Team 7, while this did happen off screen, the weaknesses of Team 7 were built upon. With Sakura, we saw that yes, she had a weakness when it came to only focusing on Sasuke and being adept to falling under Genjutsu. What we saw early on in the Chunin exams is that Sakura was praised by Sasuke as having the best Genjutsu skills on Team 7 at that point. And that's something that was hammered home more than once in the series, that Sakura had a natural talent for Genjutsu. Only in her case, she lacked a bit of confidence when it came to that. When it came to Naruto, Naruto still kind of lashed out there and did things on his own, but there were times where in the Chunin exams, you saw Naruto stop and pause for a second, almost to think as if this was the right decision. A lot of times he still went with his gut and did whatever he thought his instincts felt were best, but there were times where he paused. With Sasuke also learned learned the value of teamwork, which was something that early on in the Bell test was something that he had no clear respect for Team 7 when it came to that. And so I think that when it comes to Sarada, when it comes to weakness, it's obviously going to be her stamina. The final point for why I think that Kakashi needs to be the one to train Sarada is I think this will be a great way to segue into the Uchiha Massacre. I definitely think that Sasuke needs to be the one who talks to Sarada about the Uchiha Massacre, hands down. It has to be Sasuke who has that conversation. It can't be Sakura. And if I'm not mistaken, in the Sasuke Shinden novel, we know that Sarada knows about the massacre. So that conversation happens at some point. And I think that Kakashi would be a great way to segue into it, because Sarada would be someone who would ask, well, why were you using Sharingan if you weren't part of our clan? And that could open up the door for the conversation for the fact that the Sharingan is something that is coveted by a lot of people in the ninja world because of everything that it can do. And you did have moments where Uchiha were killed and their Sharingan was taken. And I definitely think that could be something that could help. And because Obito played a part in the Uchiha Massacre, and because Kakashi knows this, I think telling her the story of how he got his Sharingan and how Obito redeemed himself from being a villain to a hero is something that could open up the door for that conversation. But I want to know what you guys think. How do you feel about Sarada potentially training with Kakashi? And if Sarada trained with Kakashi, what jutsu would you want her to learn? Me personally, I would like to see Sarada be able to use Purple Lightning. We know that Mitsuki can use it in the Boruto manga, and we know that in the Boruto manga, in the character profile, that at some point Boruto Uzumaki was taught the Purple Lightning as well. But I definitely think just having the whole trio, Team 7, being able to use Purple Lightning, even if it's using weaker variations of it, would be something that's really interesting. And I think that having Sarada take that jutsu and master it and make it into her own, similar to the way that Sasuke took the Chidori and made it into his own with all these other variations, which I have a video coming out really soon going over every variation of the Chidori. But I feel like if Sarada did that with the Purple Lightning and expounded upon it in a similar way, I think that'd be really cool. And I feel like having Sarada be known as Sarada of the Copy Ninja, I feel like that'd be a really cool homage. But I want to know what you guys think. How do you feel about all that? But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.